Borobudur is not a temple book. Section 5. Santo Saba works. Created as a discourse to scientists based on subjective academic studies and studies, this needs to be re-examined by experts in their fields. In an effort to restore the true history of Indonesia. INDONÄSIARYÄ. By Santo Saba. Exploration and research. Complete info. Waatsap to +6 2813 2132 9787. Extract from the Book of Musarar Jayabaya. Jayabaya Musarar Book. Kitab Musarar Ingangit Duk Sang Prabu Jayabaya Dadya Sang Jayabaya G Waspada Ray Vague Kinoruan Sidarunj Lakun Universe Karana Tinhake Kings. Sacharut broke up Kalawan Magical Sasmita. Yen Ilamakadi the Prophet Re Sang Aji Jayabaya. Sengramang Ardi Wu Su Ap Sophisticated Against Kia Jara Jar Ing Mount Padong A Wind and Topan Thunder Daddy Goods Kong Sinipta. Swidak Gangsal Years Gone Pan Jumanang Ratu Fair Guardians Lan Pandita Sadaya Pan Samya Si Pamatun Wang Silik Ingkang Katar Marang Ratu Rupa Pissis Lan Awang Sawab Ingsun with Suguhi. Flower of M Lathi M Ring Kia Jar Mount Padong. Ilang Kawaraningya Sawab Ingsun with a treat. M Ring Kia Jar Mount Padong Arupa Endong Sawiji Samana Dan Itangi. The era of Pitung or Pitung 30, yes. The above is short by the author. Mount Padong is often mentioned in the article above. This shows that the civilization that existed in the land of Java was related to the Pundan Barandik Gunung Padang. At Hyang is a place for their ritual procession, which is most likely a procession towards the sun being glorified. From some of the excerpts in Tengtu Pajalaran, Musrar Jaya Baya we find the words of Dewa Agni or the god of the sun, Vishnu and Shiva here proving that their previous ancestors in the land of Java are adherents who uphold the sun. This philosophy cannot be obtained without a previous cause. We can be sure that the philosophy of worship and reverence for the sun is obtained from the philosophy and rulers of the previous Saba kingdom. That is the doctrine of the ruler against all his people, whether forced or voluntary, as mentioned in QS. Saba 30-31. Those who are proud say to those who are considered weak, "We are the ones who prevented you from being guided after the instructions came to you." No, in fact you yourself are the sinners. And those who are considered weak say to those who boast, "No, is actually your trickery at night and day, which hinders us when you call on us so that we will disbelieve in Allah and make allies. Allies for him." Both parties expressed regret when they saw the doom. And we put shackles on the necks of those who disbelieve. They are not rewarded but with what they have done. Balinese Mythology. Balinese mythology is the traditional mythology of the inhabitants of the island of Bali in Indonesia before most of the inhabitants of this island embraced a religion which is generally called Hinduism, even though the Balinese belief is very different from the Hindu belief originating from India. Balinese mythology still has characteristics with very famous figures and gods. Many figures and deities were adapted to the religion that is currently called Balinese Hinduism. Creation myths. In the beginning in the world there was only Antiboga, which is a living snake. Antiboga meditated and created Bedwang, which is a turtle or tortoise. Two snakes sat on top of the turtle along with the black stone, which later became the roof of the underground world. This underground world is ruled by the goddess Setsuyara and the god Batara Kala, who created light and the earth. On the earth lies water. And above that stretch of water spreads the sky. Semera, who is the god of love, lives in the sky. Above that sky spreads a deep blue sky. This is the residence of the sun and moon. Above all that lies heaven, which is full of flowers, and here lives Jack, a bird with a human face. Here also lives a snake named Taksaka and a group of snakes known as clouds. They are sometimes seen as shooting stars. The ancestors live in heaven filled with fire above heaven. Above all these are the abodes of the gods. A bird with a human face depicted in the Borobudur reliefs. Balinese culture and philosophy is the original culture of the former Indonesian people, not culture that comes from outside. Below will be clearer after we open the discussion about Hinduism. Is there a story in Hindu philosophy or anything that describes a bird with a human face? The religion of the Balinese people is also called the Dharma religion or the Tirtha religion. The religion of the holy water is a religious practice that is generally practiced by the majority of Balinese ethnic groups in Indonesia. That's the original Dharmic. Balinese religion is an original teaching that represents the original teachings of the archipelago which we can still know today. The oldest known relics in Indonesia related to the ancient civilization of the archipelago are the Ganesha and Shiva statues found on the island of Panaitan and are estimated to be from the 1st century AD. In addition, there are also 7 yupa fruits found in Kutai, East Kalimantan, and are estimated to be from around 400 AD. In Bali, the oldest known relics are the Shiva statues found in Bejulu, Gianyar, and which have similar features to the Shiva statues found in the Diong Highlands, Central Java. Color chess. In Bali, the Varna color chess system applies, which consists of the word katar, which means 4, and the word color, which comes from the vein wr red, wri, which means to choose. Katarwarna means 4 life choices or 4 divisions in life based on one's talents and skills, karma, as well as the quality of work one has as a result of education, talent development that grows from within and is supported by mental toughness in facing a job. The 4 groups that became known as the Katarwarna term were Brahmins, Knights, Vaisya, and Sudras. Brahmin colors, symbolized by the white color, is a functional group in society where each person emphasizes devotion in his self-service in the field of religious spirituality. Kshatriya color, symbolized by the red color, is a functional group in society where each person focuses on his/her self-service in the fields of leadership and national defense and security. Vaisya color. The yellow color symbolizes the functional group in society where each person focuses on his service in the field of community welfare, economy, industry, etc. Sudra color, symbolized by the black color, is a functional group in society where each person emphasizes his/her service in the field of manpower. Those are all the original teachings of the ancestors of the previous Indonesian archipelago. Not a teaching from India. While the teachings that were born in India, Hinduism, Jaina, and even Zoroaster, came from the previous Indonesian archipelago called Dharma. Western historians call this Dharmic. The original Dharmic brought by the Brahmins outside of Indonesia before was called the teachings of Brahmanism before the Vedas. In the course of life in society, from time to time, the implementation of the Katarwarna system tends to blend towards a closed system called Katar Wangsa or blood derivatives. Whereas Katarwarna indicates the meaning of a functional group, while Katar Wangsa shows blood derivatives. In this discussion, we try to pair it with the Sundanese Wiwitan belief. Is there a similarity? The white light in the east is called Purwa, the place of Hyang Iswara. The red light in the south is called Daksina, the place of Hyang Brahma. The yellow light in the west is called Pasima, the place of Hyang Mahadeva. The black light in the north is called the north, the place of Hyang Wisnu. All colors of light in the center are called Madhya, the place of Hyang Siwa. There are similarities in the symbolic mention of what is called light, which is the manifestation of the nature of the sun that emits light, namely, white, red, yellow, black. In accordance with the form and rationale for the teachings of the sun as a source of light, the symbolic system of the area around West Java and Bali has much in common, which uses the term light. In Indian language it is called Deva, God, light, namely the emanation, wave, that is born from the sun in the form of colors. There are 5 main colors of light Penkawarna, which form the basis of the philosophy of life of the Gala people who adhere to Sundanese and Balinese teachings. The 5 qualities of light are actually the value of time in terms of books. None of the 5 wuku 5, is bad and everything is good, but all this time Sang Hyang Siwa, the fusion of all light color, has been misinterpreted to be God of destruction, even though the meaning of the word the fuser is the unifier, or one that fuses or unites. So there is absolutely no God, which is destructive and destructive. Here it can be clearly seen that Sundanese Wiwitan and Balinese teachings have in common. If they have similarities here, it is evident that the origin of the belief in Sunda Wiwitan and Bali is one parent as well as the original beliefs of the people on other islands, which in the pre-New Order era were free to exist in its existence. It was after the New Order that the native religions and beliefs of the people had to become Hindus, which originated and were born in India. Even though the forerunner of Hindu India originated from the previous Indonesian archipelago. Then what is the light in Hinduism which comes from India? Also in the chapter below we will discuss thoroughly Hinduism originating from India. Back in Polynesia, ancient buildings, Trapan Pyramid, spread across the island of Pasca to South America, namely in Peru, which has something to do with Sunda. The cultural expansion from Tatar Sunda to Polynesia, namely by the presence of a group from Palabuhan Ratu, can be proven. Like the description, is it true that the Sundanese are immigrants, or is Parahyangan really the center of Atlantis? Here, please the reader to judge more carefully the existing truth, because true is true, it must be absolute, not relative. Let us explore the cultural civilizations that exist in the Sundanese land, which is now on the island of Java. The author assumes that the island of Java is a plateau where the Saba leaders and rulers perform their rituals of belief in the sun. We can believe that the remaining Sundanese culture originated from the remaining Saba civilization and has undergone very little change. We will find out by comparing the indigenous culture and beliefs of the archipelago with Hindu or Buddhist teachings that were born in India. Below, we will find out after we study and know the Sundanese Wiwitan teachings, namely the teachings that first existed in the archipelago or Sunda land. Indonesian mythology. Indonesian mythology is a term to describe mythology in Indonesia. Indonesian mythology is usually filled with values and life advice. As a mythology, it is very common if it is told by word of mouth. Regarding the delivery process, there will definitely be several versions of one mythology. In general, Indonesian mythology contains stories of the initial state of the world, stories of gods and supernatural beings, and stories of the origin of something. As the main characteristic that in some areas has similarities in mythology, especially in the mythology that is told as animals, we can make sure that the source is based on a belief which later changes in its storytelling. The mythology of Indonesian ancestors in terms of animals in the discussion. Belief is swan, kura-kura, snake in mythology in religion. While other animals that often appear are cows, deer, monkeys, dogs, and other animals as support, namely rats, elephants, bulls. Javanese Sundanese religion. Dewi Sri or Dewi Sri, Javanese, Nyai Pahachi Sanghyang Asri, Sundanese, is the goddess of agriculture, the goddess of rice and rice fields, and the goddess of fertility on the islands of Java and Bali. His veneration and worship took place since pre-Hindu and pre-Islamic times on the island of Java. The worship or characterization of the female figure can be considered to have one thing in common in belief. We can see the areas where female figures have the highest place, especially in Java, throughout the archipelago. India, Japan, Egypt, and the Maya. This indicates that their culture comes from one main parent, namely the Saba civilization in the Sunda land. Dewi Sri is believed to be the goddess who controls the realm of the underworld as well as the moon. Her role includes all aspects of Mother Goddess, namely as a protector of birth and life. It can also control foodstuffs on earth, especially rice, the staple food of the community, hence it governs life, wealth and prosperity. Dewi Sri also controls all the reverse, namely, poverty, famine, pest and disease, and to some extent, affect mortality. Since she is a symbol for rice, she is also seen as the mother of life. Often it is associated with rice plants and rice snakes. Dewi Sri. In the belief of the Indonesian people, Dewi Sri is thought to be a remnant of the beliefs of the ancient Indonesian people who were able to withstand social and religious changes. The worship of Dewi Sri is thought to have originated from the worship of Bhagawati Tara Dewi by farmers. In one form, Bhagavata Tara manifests as Vasundari or Vasundarini. He is depicted as having a yellow body while holding a yellowish sprig of rice. Sunda Wiwitan. Sunda Wiwitan is a religion or belief in the worship of natural forces and ancestral spirits, which are misinterpreted and considered animism and dynamism by Western historians who do not understand who the ancestors of the Indonesian nation are adhered to by the traditional Sundanese society. However, there are those who argue that the Sundanese Wiwitan religion also has elements of ancient monotheism, namely above the gods and hyangs in their pantheon there is a single supreme God Almighty and unmanifest, called Sang Hyang Kursa, who is equated with God Almighty. Adherents of this teaching can be found in several villages in the provinces of Banten and West Java, such as in Kanix, Lebak, Banten, Siptajalar Kasepahan Banten Kidal, Sisalak, Sukabumi, Kampung Naga, Sureban, and Segugar, Kuningan. According to adherents, Sunda Wiwitan is a belief that was held for a long time by the Sundanese before the arrival of Indian Hinduism and Islam. The teachings of Sundanese Wiwitan are contained in the book Sanghyang Siksakanda ing Karasian, a book originating from the era of the Sundanese kingdom which contains religious teachings and moral guidance, rules and moral lessons. This book is called Kropak 630 by the National Library of Indonesia. Based on the information of the Kokolot elders of the Chikuzik village, the Kanix people are not Hindus or Indian Buddhists, but rather different beliefs. Only in its development is the belief of the Kanix people considered to have been entered into by elements of Hinduism and to some extent Islamic teachings. In Karita Parayangan, this belief is referred to as Jatasunda teaching. Mythology and belief system. The highest power is in Sang Hyang Kursa, the Almighty, or Nunar Sakyun, who willed. He is also called Batara Tunggal, God Almighty, Batara Jagat, Lord of Nature, and Batara Seda Niskala, the Invisible. He resides in Wana Nyangkung. All the gods in that concept are original dharmics. Not Hindu, formally only born in 9th century India. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, Yama, etc., submit to Batara Seda Niskala. Ramayana, in Sanskrit, Ramayana, which comes from the words Rama and Ayana. Meaning, the journey of Rama, is an epic story from India composed by Valmiki, or Balmiki. Ramayana is also found in Javanese literature in the form of Kakawin Ramayana, and its compositions in New Javanese, which are not all based on this Kakawin. In the Malay language, there is also the Hikayat Seri Rama, which contains different contents from Kakawin Ramayana in Old Javanese. Influence in culture. Several acts and scenes in the Ramayana are translated into paintings and sculptures in architecture. Ramayana epic also exists in Wayang culture in the archipelago, such as in Java and Bali. In addition, in several countries, such as Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Philippines, and others, Wirakarita Ramayana has been appointed as an art performance. Summary of the story. Epic Ramayana tells the story of Sang Rama, who ruled in the Kosala kingdom, north of the Ganga River. Ganga. Not Ganga like the text of the word that had been distorted all this time. Its capital is Ayodhya. Previously it started with the story of King Dasarata, who had 3 queens, namely, Kausalya, Kekai, and Sumitra. From goddess Kausalya, was born the Rama. From Dewi Kekai, the Bharata was born. From Dewi Sumitra, twin sons were born, named Lakshmana and Satrugna. The 4 princes were very manly and skillful with weapons. One day, Rezi Wiswamitra asked Sang Rama for help to protect the hermitage in the middle of the forest from the disturbance of the Rakshasa. After conferring with Prabhu Dasarata, Rezi Wiswamitra and Sang Rama went to the middle of the forest accompanied by Sang Lakshmana. During their journey, Sang Rama and Lakshmana were given spiritual knowledge from Rezi Wiswamitra. They also incessantly kill the giants who interfere with the Risha's ceremonies. When they passed Mithila, Sang Rama followed the contest held by Prabhu Janaka. He won the competition and was entitled to propose to Dewi Sinta, the daughter of Prabhu Janaka. Bringing Dewi Sinta, Rama and Lakshmana returned to Ayodhya. The old king Dasarata wanted to hand over the throne to Rama. At the request of Dewi Kekai, Sang Prabhu reluctantly handed over the throne to Bharata while Rama had to leave the kingdom for 14 years. Bharata wanted Rama to succeed the throne, but Rama refused and wanted to live in the forest with his wife and Lakshmana. Finally, Bharata ruled the Kosala kingdom on behalf of Sang Rama. Rama lived in the forest. During his exile in the forest, Rama and Lakshmana met various giants, including Surpanaka. Because Surpanaka was passionate about Rama and Lakshmana, his nose was injured by Lakshmana's sword. Surpanaka complained to Rawana that he was persecuted. Rawana became angry and intended to take revenge. He went to the place of Rama and Lakshmana, then with a trick, he kidnapped Sinta, the wife of the Rama. In the attempt to kidnap her, Jatayu tried to help but was unsuccessful, so she died. Rama, who knows that his wife was kidnapped, looks for Rawana to the Alenka kingdom on Jatayu's instructions. On the way, he met Sugriva, the king of Kiskinda. With the help of Sang Rama, Sugriva succeeded in seizing the kingdom from the power of his brother, Subali. To return the favor, Sugriva allied with Sang Rama to attack Alenka. With the help of Hanuman and thousands of Wanara, they crossed the sea and attacked Alenka. Rama attacked Rawana. Rawana, who knew that his kingdom was being invaded, sent his allies including his son, Indrajit, to attack Rama. Vibhusana's younger brother advice was ignored and he was instead expelled. Finally Vibhusana sided with Rama. Indrajit removed the dragon's weapon and won, but not for long. He died in the hands of Lakshmana. After his allies and parties fell one by one, Ravana came forward and the battle was fierce. With the powerful arrow weapon of Brahmastra, Ravana died as a knight. After Ravana died, the throne of the Alenka kingdom was handed over to Vibhusana. Sinta returned to Rama's lap after her chastity was tested. Rama, Sinta and Lakshmana returned to Ayodhya safely. Hanuman gave himself wholeheartedly to serve Rama. When they reached Ayodhya, Bharata greeted them with respect and handed over the throne to Rama. Bharatiyudha is the term used in Indonesia to describe the great war in Kurukshetra between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. This war is the climax of the Mahabharata story. Because the war, Mahabharata, Bharatiyudha was the climax of the dispute between the Pandava family led by Puntadeva, or Yudhishthira, against their cousins, namely the Kauravas led by Duryodhana. However, the puppet version calls the Bharatiyudha war an event that has been predetermined by the gods. That said, before the Pandavas and Kauravas were born, this war was already set to happen. In addition, Padang Kurukshetra as a battleground according to Wayang puppets is not located in India, but in Java, to be precise in the Diong Plateau. In other words, the Mahabharata story according to Javanese tradition is thought to have occurred on the island of Java. The seeds of the dispute between the Pandavas and the Kauravas began when their parents were both young. Pandu, the father of the Pandavas, one day brought home 3 daughters from 3 countries, named Kunti, Gendari, and Madrime. One of them was presented to Dhritarashtra, his blind brother. Dhritarashtra decided to choose Gendari. Why did Gendari choose? Because Dhritarashtra is blind once again, he can't see anything, so when he chose the 3 daughters who were one by one, Gendari was chosen who had the heaviest weight, so Dhritarashtra thought that someday Gendari would have many children, just like a dream. Dhritarashtra. This made the daughter of the Plasayanar kingdom offended and hurt. Gendari felt he was nothing more than a rotating trophy. He also swore that his descendants would one day become bitter enemies of Pandu's children. Gendari and his younger brother, named Senkuni, educated their 100 children to always be hostile to Pandu's children. When Pandu died, his children suffered even more. Their lives are always being targeted by their cousins, namely the Kauravas. The following stories are not much different from the Mahabharata version, including the attempt to kill the Pandavas in a burning palace, to the seizure of the kingdom of Amarta through dice games. As a result of the gambling defeat, the Pandavas had to serve a sentence of exile in the Kamyaka forest for 12 years, plus a year disguised as commoners in the Warata kingdom. But after the sentence ended, the Kauravas refused to restore the rights of the Pandavas. Actually Yudhishthira, eldest brother of Pandava, only wanted 5 villages to be returned to Pandava. Not a single Amarta was charged. But the Kauravas were not willing to give even 1 inch of land to the Pandava. Finally the decision was made through the West Java War, which could not be avoided anymore. The Jatapsara Book. In Javanese Wayang, there is a book that is not found in the Mahabharata version. The book is called Jatapsara or Jatapsara, which contains more or less the scenario Javanese Pakam of the course of war in Bharatiyudha, including the order of who will become victims. This book was written by Bhattara Penyasan, as an interpreter of what was discussed by Bhattara Guru, the king of heaven, with Bhattara Narada regarding the scenario. Kresna, the king of the Dwarawati kingdom who became an advisor to the Pandavas, managed to overhear the conversation and the writing of the book by disguising himself as a white-beat Javanese, Klansing Puta. When he arrived at the part of Prabhu Balarama and Antarya, Klansing Puta then spilled the ink used, so that the part or chapter was cancelled. Klansing Puta then transformed into Vikara Sukma, which is the subtle form, Sukma, of Lord Krishna. Sukma Vikara protested against the confrontation of King Balarama, who was King Kresna's older brother, with Antarya, the son of Bhimasena, because Balarama will definitely lose to Antarya. In addition, Sukma Vikara asked to be allowed to have the Jatapsara book. Bhattara Guru gave up the Jatapsara book to belong to Kresna, as long as he always maintained the confidentiality of its contents, and was willing to exchange it for Kembang Wijayakusuma, Kresna's heirloom flower that can be used to raise the dead. In addition, Bhattara Guru also asked Kresna to arrange the settlement of the Balarama and Antareya questions. Krishna agreed. Since then Kresna has lost his ability to raise the dead, but he knows with certainty who will die in Bharatiyudha according to the contents of the Jatapsara book which has been destined by the gods. Later, Krishna will also ask Balarama to meditate at Grojogan Siwu during the Bharatiyudha war, and ask Antareya's willingness to return to the eternal realm, so that the battle between the two knights does not occur. In the first half, it is said, Bharatiyudha begins with the appointment of Senapati Agang or the war leader of both parties. The Pandavas appointed Rezi Seta as the war leader with companions on the right wing of Arya Uttara and the left wing of Arya Ratsanka. The three of them are famous for their toughness and come from the Warada kingdom which supports the Pandavas. The Pandavas used the Brajatikswa war strategy, which means sharp weapons. Meanwhile on the Kaurawa side appointed Bhisma, Rezi Bhisma, as the leader of the war with the companions of Pastor Drona and Prabhu Salya, the king of the Mandaraka kingdom who supported the Kauravas. Bhisma used the Wukarjaladri strategy which means, mountain of the ocean. The Kaurawa army attacked like a rolling ocean wave, while the Pandava troops led by Rezi Seta attacked with fierce as a weapon stabbing directly into the center of death. Meanwhile Rukmarata, Prabhu Salya's son came to Kurukshetra to watch the war progress. Even though he was not a member of the war force, and was outside the line of war, he had violated the rules of war, with the intention of killing Rezi Seta, the Pandava war leader. Rukmarata shot Rezi Seta but his arrow did not injure the target. After seeing who was shooting at him, namely a young prince who was inside the train outside the battle line, Rezi Seta then pushed the opposing troops towards Rukmarata. After Rukmarata's train was in the middle of the battle, Rezi Seta immediately hit it with Kyai Pekatnyawa's club, bat, until it shattered to pieces. Rukmarata, the crown prince of Mandaraka, died instantly. In this battle, Arya Uttara was killed by Prabhu Salya, while Arya Ratsanka was killed by Pastor Drona. Bhisma armed with Aji Nagakruraya, Aji Dahana, Narakabala's bow, Kyai Kundarawa's arrow, and Kyai Salakot's weapon faced Rezi Seta who was armed with Kyai Lukitapati's mace, an introduction to death for those who approached him. The fight between the two is said to be very balanced and exciting, until finally Bhisma can kill Rezi Seta. The first half of Bharatiyudha ended with the joy of the Kauravas over the death of the Pandava war leader. Second act. After Rezi Seta died, the Pandavas then appointed Drestadyumna, Trustajumena, as their war leader in the Bharatiyudha war. Meanwhile Bhisma remained the leader of the Kaurawa war. In this round the two sides fought with the same strategy, namely the Garudanglayang, flying Garuda. In this battle, two members of the Kaurava, Wikatabama and his twin, Bhamawikata, were killed after Bhima was pitted against their heads. Meanwhile, several allied kings of the Kauravas were also killed in this round. Among them, King Sumarma, the king of Trigardapura killed by Bhima, King Durgantara killed by Arya Satyaki, King Durgandana killed by Arya Sangasenga, Setyaki's son, King Durgasara and Surasudirga died at the hands of Ghatatbaka, and King Malawapati, king of Malawa, died by Arjuna's Harudadali arrow. Bhisma, after seeing the commander of his troops fall, then advanced into the battlefield, pushing forward to attack the opponent. Upon Kresna's instructions, the Pandavas then sent Dui Wara Srikandi to come forward to face Bhishma. With the appearance of the female soldier on the battlefield facing Bhishma, Bhisma felt that it was time for death to pick her up, according to the curse of Dui Amba who died at Bhisma's hands. Bhisma died by Arjuna's Harudadali arrow which was released by his wife, Srikandi. Quote from Kakawin Bharatiyudha. The quotation below describes the atmosphere of war in Kurukshetra, namely after the Pandavas led by King Drupada arranged a line which was named Garuda, which was great for pounding the Kauravas. Quotations and translations. Rihuusir Pinuja de Sangwar Sir Kabe, K Sana Rahin Commentian departed the Drupada Sut, Tika Marapadatinka Buhaning Bay Bisam, Narani Glorierwe Kyati were Kagpati. Having finished being worshipped by all of the knights, then at noon the king, the son of Drupada, was ready to set up a very dangerous line. The name of his dangerous line was Garuda, the famous brave. Drapada Pinak Tendas Tan Len Partha Sir Padak, Par Ratu Sir Prsta Shri Dharmatmaja Lari Tenjanaki Sangdar Stadyumna Sa Bal. Hu Pawan Suda Kaskokap Satyaki Re Wugat Raja Drapada as the head and Maharaja Raja Udira is none other than the beak as the leader. The right wing is the Drestadyumna with the army, the left wing is the Bhima which is famous for its strength and the Satyaki on its tail. Yesti Tiniru Kap Sang Shri Duryodhana Pihadan, Sakuni Pinak Tendas Manga Alya Sir Padak, Dwi Re Kiwa Re Tengan Sang Bismadrona Paneling, Kuru Padi Sir Purst Daya Dusasana Re Wugat. This was also imitated by the Duryodhana. The Sakuni is the head and appointed by King Madra as the beak, the right and left wing is Rsi Bisma and the priest Drona as the ear, Raja Kuru as the back and the Dursasana as the tail. Re Lasir Madinka Enka Genga Sut Numaso, Formulaki Pakakesning Buhe Panda Panana, Service Gun Kap Sang Parthang Lax Mamanahi, Linudirakinamba de Sang Bima Kasalaya. After everything was done arranging the line at that time Rsi Bisma came forward, destroying the outside of the Pandavas with arrows. Arjuna replied multiple times attacking with arrows, plus was also hit by the Bhima so that many lay. Karananak Ruzak Sayanora Pax Mapuliha, Pir Ta Kunangtasnayang Yodagal died Panana, Kurupati Krpa Salya Mawang Dusasana Sakuni, Pad Malajangamungsir Bisma Drona Pinak after all. Because it was crushed to death and no one wanted to retaliate, I don't know how many hundreds of heroes died with arrows, King Kuru, Priest Kripa, King Salya, and Sang Dursasana and Sang Sakuni, both running towards Rsi Bisma and Priest Drona who were at stake. Niyata Laruda Sakwening Yoda Sakuru Kula, Yatanang Yutusa the Shri Bisma Drona Sumuruda Tui Patengi Welakning Renwade Lawu Wulongan, Wikasanawa Kapning Ra Lum Ramad. Niyata Laruda Sakwening Yoda Sakuru Kula, Yatanang Yutusa the Shri Bisma Drona Sumuruda Tui Patengi Welakning Renwade Lawu Wulongan, Wikasanawa Kapning Ra Lum Ramadhemi Labu. Undoubtedly, the heroes of the Kauravas would disperse, if they were not ordered by Rsi Bisma and Pastor Drona to leave them. Plus it was dark because the steaming dust made them confused, they didn't know the situation, in the end it was bright because the blood scattered to extinguish the dust. Re Marinika Teng Tang Ra Lwir Sagara Manjbek, then Latuha Ra Isning Wira Madi Mapapuhan, Horse Style Rung J Ra Pandanika Kasek, Arakana Makakayang Sara Tan Weedi Mapuli. After dark the blood disappears as if the tide, which is the mud as the jewelry cloth of fallen heroes slaughtered each other, the carcasses of elephants and horses as corals and arrows scattered like lush pandanus, as people compose a composition of heroes who do not feel afraid to take revenge. Irika Nasamu Kapuan sang Partharda Kaparihain, I saw Iparanathakwe mating Ratha Karuna, it was Irawan, the son of Parthawas versus Ulapwi, Paja Alaga against Sang Krengi Rakshasa Nipuna. At that time Arjuna apparently became restless and somewhat disappointed, after he saw the kings who were sadly killed in his chariots. There was Sang Irawan, the son of Sang Arjuna and Dui Ulupi who died in the battle against Sang Srengi, an accomplished giant. Scientific facts about the story of the Ramayana. It turns out that there have been many modern civilizations before our time. The period before 4000 BC, which is considered to be prehistoric times with the Sumerian civilization as the world's oldest civilization, is considered wrong. The existence of the theory of Atlantis, Lemuria, is now further strengthened by written evidence such as Plato's conversation about Solon's dialogue and ancient Egyptian priests about Atlantis. Ancient manuscripts regarding the Ramayana and its dynasty, Bharatiyudha and the kingdom of Hastinapura, even archaeological evidence of the Mohenjo-Daro civilization that was found in northern Pakistan, the Easter Island and Pyramid of Egypt and South America at least have shown that there was indeed a modern civilization in the thousands or even thousands, millions of years before the Christian era. The Rama Dynasty. The Rama Dynasty is estimated to have ruled in the northern part of India, Pakistan, Tibet to Central Asia from 30,000 BC to 15,000 BC. Some of the Veda and Jain manuscripts, including the Ramayana and Mahabharata, actually contain historical evidence as well as a technological picture of the Rama dynasty, which is believed to have experienced a golden age with its 7 main cities. 7 Rishi City, one of which is Mohenjo-Daro, North Pakistan. Some of the advances in past civilizations. Atlantis and the Rama Dynasty had experienced a golden age, at the same time between 30,000 to 15,000 BC. Both have sophisticated aerospace and aeronautical technology to have capable and UFO-shaped aircraft, based on some records called Vimana, Rama, and Valakri, Atlantis. The inhabitants of Atlantis had an aggressive nature and were led by priests, enlightened priests, according to Plato's text. The Rama dynasty had 7 major cities, 7 rishis city, with the capital of Ayodhya, where one of the cities that was found was Mohenjo-Daro. The competition between the two civilizations reached its climax with a war using nuclear weapons, the Bharatiyudha War. Experts found that the debris as well as the remains of a human skull found at Mohenjo-Daro contained radioactive residue that could only be produced by large-scale thermonuclear explosions. In a verse about the Mahabharata, it is told metaphorically a weapon of mass destruction which has a very similar effect to today's nuclear weapons. Several Selokas in the Veda and Jain books explicitly and completely describe the form of flying spirits, called Vimana, which have similar characteristics to today's flying saucers. Most of the written evidence is in India in the form of literary manuscripts, while the physical evidence is in the Western world, namely the pyramids in Egypt and South America, and more completely in the Borobudur reliefs. In short, all the investigations above try to state that mankind had advanced in the civilizations of Atlantis and Rama. Even long before 4000 BC, humans had entered the space age and nuclear technology. However, the Golden Age ended as a result of a terrible nuclear war as well. Until later, humans had returned to primitive times, which then ended with the emergence of the Sumerian Civilization around 4000 BC or 6000 years ago. Discovery of the Ramayana Bridge, Sri Rama Bridge. All the stories about the life journey of the ape and Rama are summarized in the holy book Ramayana, written by the priest Valmiki to commemorate the story of Hanuman's heroism and Sri Rama's struggle for love for his wife Devi Sinta. In the Ramayana story is the story that he wanted to save his wife, Devi Sinta, who was kidnapped by Ravana and brought to the land of Alanka. When Rama and his younger brother Lakshmana and his soldiers were getting ready to go to Alanka, they had to stop because they were blocked by the vast sea that stretched in front. Sri Rama and other Vanara leaders finally had to negotiate to think about how to cross to Alanka, considering that not all of its soldiers could fly. It was Rama's decision to hold a ceremony by the sea to ask for help from Dewa Varuna. For 3 days Rama prayed but did not get an answer. Finally his patience ran out. Then he took his bow and arrow to dry the sea. Seeing that the sea was about to perish, Lord Varuna came to see Rama and apologized for his mistake. Dewa Varuna suggested that Vanara build large bridges without the need to dry out or reduce the depth of the ocean. Nila was appointed as the architect of the bridge. Assisted by the monkey commander Hanuman and the millions of monkey troops from King Sugriva, Sri Rama heaped the ocean with rocks and built bridges for years. This bridge was built using stones and quicksand, but the gods said in the future the rock would stick to the seabed, which eventually created a series of rocks. After working diligently, the bridge was completed in a relatively short time and was given the name, Situbanda. What is the relationship with a region in East Java called Situbondo? Then, thanks to this bridge, Rama's troops finally managed to cross and conquer the Alanka kingdom and seize Dewi Sinta from Ravana. Whether Situbanda in India is a duplication of Situbanda in Java, to find out the answer, let us continue to follow this article. That is the short story of the Ramayana story. Whether it is true or not is still under investigation. But behind this there is a lot of evidence that points to the justification of this story, including the discovery of a very unique bridge in the Palk Strait between India and Sri Lanka. This mysterious bridge has connected 2 lands, namely between Manand Island, Sri Lanka, and Pamban Island, India. So this is considered as evidence of the existence of a bridge in the Ramayana story. This one bridge is unique and very different from other bridges in the world. Its existence is not on land but under sea water about 1.5 meters. The existence of this bridge will only become evident when the seawater is receding, especially when the moon is not shining. When the moon is not shining, the sea will recede and the bridge can be seen with the naked eye. But when there is a full moon, the water will rise and the sea waves become big so that the bridge is difficult to see. So it is often referred to as mysterious places in the world. The construction will appear more real when we look at it from the air. The bridge, which is 18 miles long or about 30 kilometers with a width of almost 100 meters, looks like a snake. NASA, the United States Space Agency, has several times taken photos of this bridge through its air monitoring. From the pictures they have obtained, it can be seen that this bridge has a twisted construction consisting of a pile of rocks in the form of blocks or irregular. Yet each other stood firmly as if in a bond, which had no sign of damage for millions of years. Until now, Sri Lankan archaeologists did not know how heavy the stone construction piles were. The connection between one rock and another is difficult to break, just like the knots in the pyramids of Egypt or the Wall of China. Although the weight of the weight is not known, it is estimated that it is not less than 10 tons to 20 tons per block. Allegedly, it is older than the Egyptian pyramids built by Pharaoh. Second, examining the anthropological developments of millions of years ago and the development of their culture will reveal the veil of knowledge of the past clearly and reveal further all aspects that were standardized in its time. More broadly, this aspect has now become the basic material for comprehensive reference, research by experts from various scientific disciplines in the world. Now, from an archaeological point of view, the researchers are finding out who exactly the architect built the bridge. Because with current technology, that development is still beyond the reach of human reason. It is inconceivable how the ancient people built a sturdy bridge 18 miles or 30 kilometers above the sea level where the waves were quite fierce. As a picture of its development recorded in the Holy Book thousands of years ago. The rocks, which weigh between 10 and 20 tons on average, are neatly arranged and sturdy enough to prove to be able to withstand the fierce waves of the sea for centuries. In his book, Valmiki revealed that Sri Rama needed the help of millions of monkeys to transport stones and fill the oceans. If you look at the posture of apes as they are now, it is rather difficult to make sense if these creatures are able to collaborate with humans, whose numbers were still limited at that time. The help of the monkey troops came from Sugriva, the monkey king who was at odds with his brother Subali. After an agreement was reached, Sri Rama helped usurp the throne of Sugriva from Subali. After success, the monkey nation helped Rama build a bridge crossing from Rameswaram to Sri Rare. Is Sri Rare Ceylon area at this time? Let's follow next. Then from this story, what became the question of the Sri Lankan and UNICEF anthropologists was it true that the brilliant King Sri Rama was ever born on earth and made a spectacular work? If so, from which nation and at what time did it exist? Because in the Holy Book, it is revealed that Rama was assisted by millions of monkeys to build a crossing bridge to Alenka. From the results of further research, it was revealed that it was certain that Sri Rama was not from the Homo sapiens race, a nation of apes, but was strongly suspected of having transitioned from Homo sapiensis to Australiensis. This race has a very high level of intelligence, which is capable of making a world masterpiece that can withstand the blows of time, and the waves of the sea are quite fierce for thousands of years. According to Sudaranayagala, the Director General of Archaeology of Sri Lanka, who is also the author of the book, The Early Man and the Rise of Civilization in Sri Lanka, from a number of existing evidence, both in the form of artifacts and other living tools, since 2 million years ago in Sri Lanka there has indeed existed active community of life. One of the proofs is the discovery of a giant human skeleton which is thought to have lived in the Satya period, Satya Yuga. Has a tall posture with a height of about 60 cubits or as high as a coconut tree. The latest data from the research of experts from the world body also reveals the age and use of the bridge that is now under the sea. The use of the carbon test in the study was only able to reveal ages up to 5,000 years. However, to reveal more about the age of this world's work, the experts of this UN agency use the uranium radioisotope. And it turns out that the radioisotope test results are quite amazing. Experts have managed to reveal that the age of the bridge, Sri Rama Bridge, is approaching the age of up to millions of years. According to Dr. Vijaya Laxmi, professor of archaeology from Bharatiyudha University Colombo, that the previous carbon test results revealed that the age of Sri Rama Bridge is around 3,500–4,000 years. However, With the new methodology, it was revealed that the age of the object of this study was between 1,750,000 to 2 million years. It is further revealed that based on the Hindu time disk, the construction of the Sri Rama Bridge is around the time of the Sathya period, which is around 1,728,000 years. While the other periods of time are the Treta period 1,296,000 years, the Kali 4,320,000 years and the Dwapara period 864,000 years ago. This legacy has also shown that in the past humans entered a golden age with evidence of their scientific progress in making this bridge, Sri Rama Bridge. We must always protect and preserve this guard, because this Sri Rama Bridge is the only physical evidence of the existence of the classic world epic story, Ramayana, and also shows us about the existence and progress of their civilization in the past. Bharatiyudha. Past nuclear war Ramayana. This story tells of the great conflict between Pandu and Dhritarashtra's descendants in fighting for the throne of the kingdom. According to my sources, this epic was written in 1500 BC. However, the historical facts recorded in the book are 2,000 years earlier than the completion of the book. The meaning. The events recorded in this book are estimated to have occurred 5,000 years ago. But, is that really what happened? Could it be that long before the modern era like ours there was an advanced civilization that had mastered nuclear technology? Whereas the period before 4000 BC is considered a prehistoric period where the Sumerian civilization is considered the oldest civilization in the world, has no such progress been found. Recently my attention has been focused on a theory about the possibility of humans having entered the nuclear age more than 6,000 years ago. The Atlantean civilization in the West, and the Rama Dynasty in the East are thought to have developed and experienced a golden age between 30,000 BC and 15,000 BC. Atlantis has an area ranging from the Mediterranean to the Andes Mountains across the Atlantic Ocean, while the Rama Dynasty ruled in the northern part of India, Pakistan, Tibet to Central Asia. The remains of the inscriptions in Indus, Mohenjo-Daro and Easter Island, South Pacific, have yet to be translated, and experts estimate that the civilization originated much older than the oldest civilization believed to be humans, 4000 BC. Several Veda and Jain manuscripts, including the Ramayana and Mahabharata, actually contain historical evidence as well as technological descriptions of the Rama dynasty, which is believed to have experienced a golden age with its 7 main cities, 7 Rishi city, one of which is Mohenjo-Daro, North Pakistan. In an excerpt from the story in the Mahabharata epic, it is said that Arjuna bravely sits in a Vimana, an object similar to an airplane, and lands in the middle of the water, then launches Jendava, a missile rocket-like weapon that can both cause and release intense flames in over the enemy's territory. Then in an instant the earth shook violently, thick smoke rising above the horizon. In that second the resulting explosion power immediately destroyed and scorched everything that was there. What makes people wonder, what kind of weapon did Arjuna unleash with his Vimana? There are several studies that try to uncover the mystery of human life in the past. About how social life to the progress of their science and technology. In recent times there have been many surprising research results. And from various sources that I have studied, in general the depiction through various kinds of theories and research on this subject has also provided some interesting study material, including beginning before 2 billion years to 1 million years of human civilization today, it turns out that there has been human civilization. In these very long periods of time, how many civilizations were so advanced that they ended up dying? And the cause of that destruction is none other than the result of wars that have occurred. Atlantis and the Rama dynasty had experienced a golden age, at the same time 30,000 to 15,000 BC. Both of them have mastered nuclear technology. Both have sophisticated aerospace and aeronautical technology to have a capable and UFO-shaped aircraft, based on some records called Vimana, Rama, and Valakri, Valaxi, Atlantis. The inhabitants of Atlantis had an aggressive nature and were led by priests, enlightened priests, according to Plato's text. The Rama dynasty had 7 major cities, 7 Rishis city, with the capital of Ayodhya, where one of the cities that was found was Mohenjo-Daro. Competition between the two civilizations reached its peak using nuclear weapons. Experts found that the debris as well as the remains of a human skull found at Mohenjo-Daro contained radioactive residue that could only be produced by large-scale thermonuclear explosions. The skeletons lying in the streets, as if they had been hit by a sudden terrible catastrophe. These skeletons contain highly radioactive remains, similar to those found in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In a verse about the Mahabharata, it is told metaphorically a weapon of mass destruction which has a very similar effect to today's nuclear weapons. Vimana. From the results of research carried out on the banks of the Ganges River in India, archaeologists found a lot of remains of debris that had become charred rock above the river's headwaters. The large stones in these ruins are attached together, the surface protrudes and the sunken surface is uneven. If you want to melt these rocks, you need a temperature of at least 1800 degrees Celsius. Ordinary flames cannot reach this temperature, only in a nuclear explosion can it reach such a temperature. There are several studies that try to uncover the mystery of human life in the past. About how social life to the progress of their science and technology. In recent times there have been many surprising research results. And from various sources that I have studied, in general the depiction through various kinds of theories and research on this subject has also provided some interesting study material, including beginning before 2 billion years to 1 million years of human civilization today, it turns out that there has been human civilization. In these very long periods of time there have been many civilizations that were so advanced but that they ended up leading to destruction. And the cause of that destruction is none other than the result of wars that have occurred. Fossils of victims of nuclear war in Mohenjo-Daro era 15,000 BC. In the primitive forest in the interior of India, people also found more charred stone ruins. The city walls that have collapsed are crystallized, as smooth as glass. The outer layers of household furniture made of stone inside the buildings have also been calcified. Apart from India, ancient Babylon, the Sahara Desert, and the Gobi Guru in Mongolia have also been found in the ruins of a prehistoric nuclear war. The glass stones in the ruins all match the glass stones in the current nuclear test site. Scientific evidence of Vedic civilization. Archaeological, geological evidence has been revealed from the discovery of fossils and artifacts used by humans at that time. It has been shown that modern human civilization existed around hundreds of millions and even billions of years ago. The evidence is revealed by Michael Cremo, a senior archaeologist, researcher and also a Veda from America, with more than 8 years of research. From various parts of the world, including Indonesia, have been able to reveal the mystery of the Vedic civilization in a meaningful way. The report is written in several published books such as Forbidden Archaeology, The Hidden History of Human Race, Human Devolution, a Vedic alternative to Darwin's theory, published in 2003. In this book, there will be many fossils, artifacts in the form of old jugs, footwear, cooking utensils and so on. Hundreds of millions of years, even billions of years, made by humans who have advanced civilizations, could not have been made by apes or any lower primates. From these books, it was also found that some archaeologists had manipulated by changing the dimension of time. This was aimed at supporting Darwin's theory of evolution, because in fact the theory of evolution was still very weak. The scientific evidence clearly states that the Vedic civilization has existed for billions of years. Scientists have proven that the Great War in the Holy Land of Kurukshetra, the city of Dwaraka, the holy river Sarasvati and so on is a historical event, not a mythology. Every time the World Archaeologists Congress, they always present new evidence about the ancient Bharatiyudha civilization. Below is shown a little of the scientific evidence. In fact, there are still many other scientific evidences that show this Vedic civilization, so that the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvyapara Yuga and Kali Yuga with a duration of around 4,320,000 years are a history of modern human civilization that adhere to the principles of Dharma. That is the original Dharmic teaching of the original ancestors of the Indonesian archipelago, which until now is perfectly preserved in Balinese culture and is depicted in the Borobudur reliefs. Ramayana depicted in Prambanan is complete. There are no sites outside the Indonesian archipelago that describe the Ramayana story in detail and completely. Bharatiyudha War. The world's leading archaeologists have agreed that the Great War in Kurukshetra is the history of Bharatiyudha, now thought to be India, which took place some 5,000 years ago. Now the researchers just want to determine an exact date about the event. From the results of observations along with scientific evidence. From various estimates, a proposal for the following events is made. 1. Prophet Idris 4533-4188 BC, Babel, Iraq. 2. Prophet Noah 3993-3043 BC, southern modern Iraq. 3. Around 3150 BC, the flood. After this disaster, the history of the second civilization has just begun. Sri Krishna arrived at Hastinapura estimated to be around the 28th of September 3067 BC. Bhishma returned to the spiritual world around January 17, 3066 BC. Balarama made a holy journey on the Saraswati River in the month of Pushya November 1, 3067 BC. Balarama returned from this trip in the month of Sravana December 12, 3067 BC. Ghatotbaka was killed on December 2, 3067 BC. 4. The second migration of the Proto-Malays in 2500 BC to the island of Borneo. And many more important dates of events have been calculated. The ancient city of Varaka. Likewise, the existence of the city of Varaka, which was once a mystery. The city is mentioned in the Mahabharata that Varaka drowned on the beach. Dr. Rao is a senior archaeologist who diligently investigates the marine archaeology, and the result is the discovery of the ruins of an underwater city, along with its ornaments, in the Gujarat area. Dwaraka, the city of the past kingdom of Sri Krishna. Sarasvati River. The existence of the ancient cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro as well as the existence of the holy river Sarasvati have been found in the Rig Veda, but its whereabouts are not known. Then by NASA with a photo shoot from space it turns out that there is a valley which is a former river that has dried up, but in a certain depth there is still a flow. Water in the territory of Pakistan which empties into the Arabian Sea. The direction is in accordance with that described in literature. Alenka Bridge. Space shoots conducted by NASA have found a mysterious bridge connecting Manand Island, Sri Lanka, and Pamban Island, India, along 30 kilometers, with a width of about 100 meters. It appears that the bridge is man-made with an age of about 1,750,000 years. This figure is in accordance with the history of the Ramayana which happened to Treta Yuga. Now being researched the type of rock. So the Ramayana is Ithihasa, history, not a fairy tale. The image of the Rama Bridge itself is very easy to see from above sea level because it is not too deep, which is only about 1.2 meters deep, if the seawater is receding, with a width of almost 100 meters. Ancient nuclear reactor in Oklo. In 1972, there was a company, France, that imported uranium mineral ores from Oklo in the Republic of Gabon, Africa for processing. They were surprised by their discovery, because the imported uranium ore had actually been processed and used before and the uranium content with nuclear reactor waste was almost the same. This discovery succeeded in attracting scientists who came to Oklo for a study. From the results of research showing the existence of a large-scale nuclear reactor in prehistoric times, with a capacity of approximately 500 tons of uranium ore in 6 regions, which is thought to be able to generate power of 100,000 watts. The nuclear reactor mine is well maintained, with a reasonable layout, and has been in operation for 500,000 years. What makes people even more astonished is that the restricted mining waste from the nuclear reactor is not widespread in the 40-meter area around the mine. When viewed from the existing nuclear reaction structuring techniques, the reactor mine arrangement technique is far more powerful than now. What really embarrasses scientists now is that when we were dizzy in dealing with the problem of nuclear waste, prehistoric humans already knew how to use natural topography to store nuclear waste. The uranium mine in Oklo was built approximately 2 billion years ago after evidence of geological data, and not long after it became a mine, this nuclear reactor was built. Responding to the results of this research, scientists admit that this is an ancient nuclear reactor, which has changed textbooks so far, as well as giving us lessons on how to deal with nuclear waste. As well as making scientists inevitably have to seriously study the possibility of the existence of this prehistoric civilization, in other words that this nuclear reactor is a product of the era of human civilization. As is known, the mastery of atomic technology by mankind has only been carried out within a few decades, with this discovery at the same time explaining that in the past 2 billion years there was already a technology whose civilization surpassed us today, and understood very well how to use it. All of these archaeological finds are in agreement with historical records passed down through generations. We can know that humans have also developed a high civilization 5,000 years ago, even knowing how to use a nuclear reactor, but because of fighting over power and wealth and using it arbitrarily, so they experience destruction. In short, all the investigations above try to state that mankind had advanced in the civilizations of Atlantis and Rama. Even long before 4000 BC, humans had entered the space age and nuclear technology. However, this golden age ended as a result of a terrible nuclear war until afterward, humans had returned to primitive times. This primitive period ended with the emergence of the Sumerian Civilization around 4000 BC or 6000 years ago. Strong evidence of the great civilization on the big island called the Sunda land as well as major events that occurred at that time were recorded and summarized in a large temple in Java, the Saba civilization, which in the era after its destruction was named Nusantara. The temple was the Borobudur temple. Borobudur book is not a temple. Part 5. Go to Part 6. Santo Saba works. Created as a discourse to scientists based on subjective academic studies and studies, this needs to be re-examined by experts in their fields. In an effort to restore the true history of Indonesia. INDONÄSIARYÄ. By Santo Saba. Exploration and research. Complete info. Waatsap to +6 2813 2132 9787.